um, meeting at 5:30. I've tried to make it, but it didn't happen yet.
Okay. You have access to the YouTube page where the channels, where all the replays are?
I believe so.
Okay. So
I don't go on YouTube very often, but I think I did subscribe to it.
Okay. So the YouTube channel is a really great resource too, because that's where the replays are. You don't have to do these live with me in the morning. I do them live because sometimes people want some support or some guidance, but you can also just do it whenever it suits your schedule. So like if you're somebody, some people don't get up until 8. Some people get up at 3 in the morning and they like to do the replays at 3 in the morning and not wait for me until 5:30, so really give yourself a lot of freedom to say, I'm going to do this when it works for my nervous system in the beginning and not feel pressure like I have to do it at this time. Other people's nervous systems like to have that time and like to have that very specific, because it's like, that's the way that works for them. That's the way that they do it, because it's almost like they have to be accountable to that. So, don't feel like you have to do it either way. Just kind of really be led by what's going to work for your nervous system, and it will change. There's been so many times, like in the beginning of this work, that for 7 years, we did it at the same time every day, all the time. And I was doing it. And then there's this time where I pulled back and everybody did their own. And then I came back, and, so it's ebbed and flowed for me too, as we've done this. So really just kind of feel like what feels right for you. Okay, well, let's jump in and let's talk about the resources of this class. So hello and welcome. I'm Adrienne, and Adrienne Engel, and we have 2 other people on here with us today, 2 other participants, one that is new to the practices and one that's been doing the practices for nearly a decade with me. And there's always something new to learn every single day that we come to this, because there's so much depth in what is being offered in these workbooks and in the classes. And so my name is Adrienne Engel, and I am a medical massage and somatic therapist for the past 30 years. And the first 20 years of my career, it was very much science-based and physiology-based. And then the last 10 years of my career, I had a near-death experience, and I met Jesus in that experience. And in that process was able to bring in, how does all of this somatic work intertwine with our spiritual journey? And in the process of meeting Jesus, one of the things that he invited me to do was to teach these practices every day, and to not just make them Christ-based, but to make them universally based for any spiritual tradition, or even somebody who's not spiritual, because the thing that ties us together is our nervous system. And so out of that relationship and out of those decade of teaching the classes came these 3 practices, or these 3 workbooks. The blue workbook is for those of you who are on a Christ-based tradition. And so there's Christ-based language for how we are working with the nervous system. You can buy these on Amazon, or you can just print out the PDF that is in the description box below these videos. You don't have to purchase it. You could print out the PDF and you can do this with it. You can laminate it, and then work with your own little workbook if you want to. It's kind of helpful to have the workbooks because you can draw on these little body diagrams. That's one of the benefits of having the workbook, but you don't have to have it. You don't have to buy it that way. One of the things that Jesus led me to do is to make this accessible and free for everybody so that it can meet everybody where they're at. Okay, then we have the purple workbook, is somebody who's coming from a non-Christ-based tradition. There are a lot of people who've been harmed and traumatized by how Christians over the years have used Christ as a weapon and to harm people. And so a lot of people in our world are coming from that perspective, or just don't resonate because they're coming from a different religion. So for those people, you'd want to use the purple workbook, because that's going to still give you the steps of how we're working with our nervous system to go through these daily practices. And I'm going to talk about what's in both of those workbooks in a second. And then the Overflow book is to help us begin to have a way of relating to how to use movement and a percussion tool to drive our nervous system into states of deep rest, partnered with sacred text, scriptures from the Bible, or if you're coming from a spiritual neutral tradition, sacred text, or things that are inspiring to you. If you're doing a self-help book and there's motivational things that are inspiring to you, you can partner that book with this. And on Mondays, we do this, where it's like going a little deeper with movement and Theragun, and doing like a repetitive way of really helping our body to offload places of tension that we've held. So that's a specialized practice that we do on Mondays, and we use a percussion tool to do that. However, in our daily practice, we touch on that every day too. We do a little movement and we do a little rest practice every day, and that's included in these practices as well. So the overflow practice is just something that we dive a little deeper into on Mondays. And the experience that has happened for a lot of the participants of the overflow practice is that it has reconditioned their capacity to sleep deeply. And that's been something. I have a few of the participants that are over the age of 60, and their nervous systems have rehabilitated. And my nervous system, I am a 50-year-old person next year, and my nervous system has been able to rest very deeply. So one of the big journeys of somebody who's coming with PTSD or any type of emotional traumas that you've carried throughout the years, it really can disrupt your capacity to sleep. And so the overflow practice is something that can help you with that, but you can also begin with that in small bits in these two journals. So today we're going to be talking about, talking a little bit about both of these journals and what is in the daily practice. So let's go ahead and open to that. If you are following along in the worksheet and you've printed that out online, we're going to start with the Rise and Shine practice. So the Rise and Shine practice is the first practice that we do in the morning. I'm going to give you a brief description of the 5 practices, and don't get overwhelmed when I tell you that. There are 5 practices in the day, and you should be able to get those 5 practices done in an hour and a half, roughly, spread throughout your day. And I'm going to explain to you how they work with the nervous system and why they're awesome. But don't feel like you have to jump in and do all 5 practices every day from the start. You might. That would be amazing. You may not. When you look at my journal, this is the journal I use, you can see all these little tabs in here. And what these tabs represent are practices that I did not complete on that day because I had a lot going on in my life. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm the person who's teaching this, and I still have places that I miss. Before I complete my journal, I go back and I fill in those places. So I move on to my next journal with a journal complete. So right now I'm at the end of this journal. This is a 90-day journal, and I've been in this journal for longer than 90 days, for about 4 months. It's taking me to go back and complete all the little pieces. So just starting off the bat and setting that expectation that you do not need to do all of this every day to get it to be able to be functional. You're going to come to this at your own pace and your own capacity. So for the participants that are on here, we actually have 2 participants on here now that have been with me for over a decade, and the new participant. Talk to us about your experience with getting it all done in a day. What has your experience been? One of the participants has been with me for over a decade. What has been your journey? Have you ever completed a journal straight through 90 days and got all of the pieces done every day for 90 days?
No.
Right? Okay. So what has your journey been? Has it been, tell me a little bit about what your expectation has been and what you have learned over the last decade and how you relate to your journal.
It has been a very fraught relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The overwhelm was like completely off the charts. The Rise and Shine has been kind of my beacon. And even the Rise and Shine, I haven't done 100% every morning. I'm working on it. And if I look, I realize how helpful it is. And it's more enticing for me to be doing it. For me personally, it's really important to do it live And that actually has led me to now get up a lot earlier. I used to be a night owl, and I wasn't gonna get up that early anymore. And now I am. And the scripture, it was very hard for me to start relating to the scripture. That's where a lot of my story from earlier would come in. And the same with songs, music. But I'm warming up to it a lot, and I'm finding it extremely helpful for my nervous system because it looks at it from different angles.
Mhm.
Each one of them is a medicine of sorts,
Mhm.
and not all of them talk to me at the same time, the same way. And that's the beauty of it,
Mhm.
because sometimes I might get it through the scripture, another time it's really the song. But pretty consistently, now that I've practiced it for a while, Rise and Shine itself is it's mandatory. What comes to mind is I don't skip certain like meals of the day.
Mhm.
I make time for it. And
Mhm.
so now I am more and more establishing that too.
And how long did that take you to start making time for it?
A while, I would say. Well, it's a gradual process. It's been months. And yeah.
You've been doing this for 10 years though, so how long did it take you to really make time in the way that you're making time?
Oh, you mean going all the way back, not having the journal? That journal is still fairly recent.
Right, the journal is new in this last year,
Yeah.
and so for you, it's taken quite a few months, even with having a foundation of practice. Even though we were doing practices live, we were just doing different journals, but this is really combining movement, massage, rest, morning practice, evening practice. So I'm just wanting to help people who are new that are coming to this really soften their expectation on being able to just jump in and do the whole thing. That it's something that
Yes.
you're going to come to. So I want somebody to be able to share realistically how much time it has really taken to wade into those waters and acclimate.
Oh, it's taken a long time. When we started 10 years ago, it took a completely different form. It was like it was leading me in the direction. And then little by little, I would say within the last 3 to 5 years, it really became much more clear what the assignment is. In the last 2 years, I've been able to get my connection, honor my connection with Jesus. That was really, really hard. It used to be hard for me to say Jesus and Holy Spirit. And however, I've had a divine connection of sorts for decades.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was really important for me to find just which one I feel most comfortable with. And that's where I'm at now.
Right. And
Is that
it has not always been that. It has not always
no,
been. Yes.
no. It kept evolving.
Right. So, just starting off the bat, this might be one of the first communities that we're talking about the nervous system, but we're also very much talking about our spiritual connection right in alignment. And there's room for everybody to do that with the language that suits them. And I'm holding space for that. And then I also invite you guys to hold space for me when I'm coming from a Christ-based tradition. I'm saying what's true for me, but I'm not saying that you have to have my same language. And there's going to be room for that to ebb and flow as your nervous system goes through its journey of integration. So it's really important in this class where it's like some of the times you're hearing me use that language, it might make you bristle, And so I try to be as gentle as I can, but then also making room for what is true for each of you. And I have a very big open door for how we are navigating that and allowing people to be honest with where they are in that journey. The first practice we're going to be going through today is the Rise and Shine practice. And in that practice, what we're doing is we are first connecting with, through our nervous system, how is the divine holding us and supporting us? And are we able to feel the quality of support and rest into that? And we're going to draw a little picture on our body diagram of what that feels like. And then we're going to be inviting in, what is the challenge that we're facing today? With the understanding that every single day that we're alive, there's going to be some dominant challenge that we're facing. We want to expect that, and we don't want to think that, oh, something's wrong because I'm having a challenge. No, we want to expect it, and we want to work with it. And shockingly, every single day you will have a challenge. So don't be worried if you don't come up with one. Like, you will have one every day. And this helps your nervous system to strengthen, bringing that challenge through your parasympathetic system, supported by your divine connection, so that you can hear intuition divinely on how am I to relate to this challenge in a new way that will lead me to wholeness and healing. So today we're going to go through that. And if you're watching this on the replay, you can push pause and push play and take your time to go through this, because this is going to be about an hour and a half to a 2-hour experience, but come and go as you need to get through it. I'll kind of break down how that works as we move through. The second section that we go through after we've done the Rise and Shine is how do we listen to hearing the divine speaking to us throughout the day? How am I listening for that connection? For those of you that are coming from the Purple Notebook, the spiritual neutral practice, that's going to be called the section Spirit Source Messages, Alive in Music. So every day there is a song that you might hear where there's words that are speaking to you through that song. And you're going to write those down, and then you're going to listen to, how is that a message for me today from the divine? And so you're kind of sitting with that and taking those words and taking that into an embodied experience. This helps you strengthen your capacity to hear the divine in real time, through music, through conversation, through watching a movie, any form of media, any interaction, through nature. You might hear a word or feel a message coming through with that. So this just helps to strengthen your nervous system to begin to hear, not just when we're sitting in the Rise and Shine practice, but to begin to hear in your life. And then the second part of that is Spirit Source Alive in Sacred Text and Readings. This could be a book that you're reading, or a magazine article, or a news thing that you're reading. Anything that you're reading, what stands out for you? What word stands out? And what does that mean for you today? How is that connected to your whole experience of what's happening for you? Remarkably, you're going to start to see that there's a theme, and that the divine or God or whatever you use for that is speaking to you all the time through what you're engaging with. And then the third part of that section is we're doing some type of movement. So we're doing like a repetitive, slow 60 repetition movement into a stretch, which I call the open position. We call it open position instead of stretch because we don't want to be forcing our body to open. We want to be holding a gentle open space and let the body's nervous system begin to unwind, but we'll get deeper into that later. And then we move into a rest. And in that deep rest, might be 20 minutes, 10 minutes, it might be 60 minutes. In that deep rest, your brain begins to reprogram itself into these new pathways that are establishing. Then there's a third section, which is your daily notes. This is where you might be writing like, this is really hard. I keep getting stuck at not being able to make it to this practice, or I don't like doing this, or there's a lot of, this is like where I'm grappling with my challenges and with my divine connection. There's going to be a lot of different things that will just come in here. That's where you can put into this section, or good things that are happening. You're kind of making notes throughout the day. And then in the evening, we have an evening practice, which is about 15, 20 minutes long. And that's saying, how did I do today with what I was invited to do and with the messages that came? And what was the big standout growth that I had that I did really well? And then where am I still in challenge? What's still in process? And how can I take care of myself tonight? So that's a very quick overview of how to use our journal. One of the other things that we do in the morning is we have an index card that we use, that after I go through the Rise and Shine practice, I have an index card that I'm writing on there. This is what I am going to be trying to do today. And here's my schedule. And this is what I'm going to be invited to do divinely. And then I take this with me into my day, and I'm kind of revisiting that throughout the day to help me remember. Okay. So that's the different practices that are in the workbook. And let's go ahead and work through one of them together, or a couple of them together. So go ahead and open up your journal to a Rise and Shine practice. Oh, also, you do want to have some type of percussion tool. I use Theragun tools. This is what I actually teach. And there's lots of different tools that Theragun makes. You can use a tool. This is their more affordable model. It's like $160. You can use any other brand of percussion tool. And then there's also the advanced model from Theragun. This one's closer to about $500. It has a heated head, it has ice, and it has infrared. So there's some other things we use this for, but you don't need to have that. But we do a percussion part, a massage part and percussion before we go into our deep rest. And that just helps your body rest more completely when we get to that section. So let's take a moment. Does anybody have any questions about those 5 practices? Anything that stands out? Any questions that you have before we move on?
No,
Okay.
I'm feeling a little bit more confident about it.
Good, yeah, because the bar is like, there's a lot of stuff here, but we're just going to come to it just super, super relaxed. I'm going to find one of my ones that I didn't complete and try to complete it today here. So forgive me while I'm flipping through. This is the dance you play at the end of your journal, where you're like, where are they? Even though they're tabbed. Let's see if I can find one that is a Rise and Shine. Sorry, guys. Should have done this before we got on here.
So are you going back and finishing a section based on what's already in that section?
I'm going back. So yeah, this is actually one that I would do. So sometimes if I'm teaching, sometimes I'm writing down my challenges, but then I kind of go off on a tangent, which I try not to do as much anymore, but I always still kind of do when I'm teaching. But see, so I got through the number 2 part, the number 2 section, which is this is what's going on for me, but then I didn't finish what the divine offered me. So I left all that gift on the table, meaning like the way that the class is set up is we're naming our challenge, and we're going through, when you look at your worksheet and you're looking at how does your mind see it, how do you speak about it, how do you behave when that challenge is present, what are the emotions and the sensations that come up, how do your breathing respond, what's your past and what's your present experience. This is an embodied experience. Those are the regions of your embodied experience. So if you take a moment and look at this, I'm going to share this with you guys real quick. Let me see if I can find it. I might have closed that window out. Darn, I did. Nope, I didn't. Here it is. Oh, I did. Anyways, I'll put a picture of it up later, but it's the regions of your emotional sensory core. So when we start our class and we feel our support, then we go down and we're naming, how does this challenge I'm facing really show up in my full emotional sensory core, in my parasympathetic and sympathetic system. This is like, if we were using religious language, this is like us coming into repentance with God, like turning around and coming back to God and saying, here's how I've done it, because I've been doing it alone and I didn't know how to find your support. So here's how I survived, and this is what I did. Here's how I reacted, or here's how I hid, or here's how I got overwhelmed. We're naming that in that line number 2. So I'm speaking to the divine. For me, that's Jesus. I'm saying, Jesus, this is what I did. God, this is what I did. And here's where I'm stuck. For those of you that are coming from a spiritual neutral tradition, you're just talking to the divine mystery, or to source, or the universe, however that resonates for your heart. And then in line number 3, what we're doing is we're holding that in the support, in the I'm sorry, this thing is like back in my computer. We're holding that in the divine support gift. And what happens is that switches me out of sympathetic and it switches me into the parasympathetic response. So this behavior, this way that I've been reacting in my nervous system, all of a sudden begins to actually change. New pathways are being created. So we go through taking that whole embodied experience into relationship with the divine. And then we say, now, after I've done that, how do you want me to respond to this today? How do I relate to this today? So for me, I only filled out half of that class. And so I can redo that now today. I'm going to still do the same theme and find out what it is for me today. So you guys, you can see, sometimes you just get interrupted, and you don't complete, or sometimes you lose focus, or sometimes you fall asleep. I have 2 people on the class here today who have fallen asleep in the middle of their practices, right? So we just do the best we can. Does that answer the question?
Yes.
Okay. Does that make sense? Am I
doing great?
Okay. So let's jump into, let's do the first part, the arriving part. So part 1, we're just recognizing and receiving the love that source has already forgiven to us, like the way that we're held. We do that by taking a moment to just pause and notice, how is our body held, or how are we connected to the surface where we are seated? How are we connected to the surface where we are seated? Let's take a moment and just feel. So for me, I can feel my hips in my seat. I feel my feet on the floor. And participant who's here with me, what do you feel? How are you connected to your seat? What do you notice?
I'm noticing being connected through my feet on the chair.
So you're noticing that. So you put under, my most supported body part is my feet on the chair. And mine would be both of my hips in my seat. And then we want to take a moment and see, what does it feel like? What does it feel like for your feet to be held by that chair? What is the word that comes to your mind? The quality of support is what we call it.
I'm getting strong foundation.
Right. So you're going to write that down. The quality of support feels like a strong foundation. And for those of you who are new and listening to this, I'm sorry, I'm trying to turn off this notification thing, and it should be off, but it still is coming through. For those of you who are new, this is going to come just like, it's just like a flash, like, oh, it feels like a strong foundation. This is not something that you're going to get right or wrong. It's just, what does it feel like for your legs to be held and supported, or your hips to be held and supported? For me, I feel the word that comes is just gentle endurance. It doesn't have to make sense to our brain yet. Like, it will make sense the further that we go, but you just want to write that down as the quality of support. The other two participants, what words do you get as you feel into that?
I feel strength.
Mm-hmm. So a sense of strength.
A sense of solid support.
And a sense of solid support. So what we do is we take a moment to let our brain see that. We're saying this strong foundation, gentle endurance, strength, and strong support, this belongs to me. This experience belongs to me. So you're taking a moment and you're letting that in. You want to see what begins to change or reorganize in your body as you're letting your body rest into that support. Take a moment and you're going to pay attention to that. Just noticing what begins to shift. So for me, I hear my mind calm down and I feel my legs begin to soften.
So would this, what we're writing now, be under the quality of support feels like on that line is where we're writing it, or just?
Right. You're writing strong foundation would be in that line. That was yours, right? Strong foundation.
Yeah.
And then what you're doing is you're noticing. So like for me, I noticed that what starts to change in my body when I receive that is that I feel like a calming down of my brain, and it kind of feels like a blue color. And then I feel a softening happening down through my legs. And it feels more like a peachy color. The other thing that I have that I didn't mention is I have these little marker set. You could use colored pencil, you could use markers, you could use whatever. The pages, the paper that we got for these journals should be thick enough for these type of markers, because we want you to be able to let the brain feel that the body changes when it's able to receive this support. So you're kind of drawing on there. If you have some colors, it helps the brain to even articulate like, ooh, this feels, I feel my body changing, and it actually feels like different things that are happening. Can you sense a part of your body changing as you feel the strong foundation? Do you feel parts of your body responding to that strong foundation?
Yes, I feel like I can feel like the strength that's coming from my feet move further up my legs.
Yep. Yep. That's your nervous system receiving that. That's your nervous system taking that in. That's an actual tangible thing. And when we are operating from the research of Dr. Candace B. Pert, every emotion that I have has a corresponding biochemistry. So it's energetic, it's a felt sense, it's in the nervous system, but it's also a chemical, it's a part of a chemical pharmacy that's being released within my system, and you can feel it, it's tangible. So when my brain is able to recognize their support, the body begins to wake up and it begins to establish its journey of homeostasis, and you can feel it. The reason why we want to draw it on the diagram is because it helps the brain to like really see that this thing is happening, and the brain doesn't have to control it. The brain is beginning to watch how the body's wisdom moves. So you want to draw it on your little body diagram if you can. Pardon me, guys, I have some food being delivered in about 2 seconds. So I'm going to mute this and step aside for a second, and then I'll be back. Who else can feel the quality of support come alive in their body? Who else has a way that they can experience that?
There is a softness and a sense of slowing down.
Mm-hmm. So softness, and then notice which part of your body takes that in.
Well, it's kind of all over today.
So you're noticing how that keeps flowing, and the more you watch it, the more it keeps moving. I'm going to step aside and go grab this, and I'll be right back. But watch how it keeps moving. So what happens for the new participant? What do you notice as you keep letting it move?
It seems like as I'm focusing on what I'm feeling in my body, it's calming my mind down as well. And I'm noticing more focus, but also like when it moves, things are continuing to move up. And then there's more sensation in different parts.
That's right. And so those pathways, as that's moving, that's a part of your parasympathetic response and your body receiving this gift of the divine support. So the divine support for you today is strong foundation. And every day and in every moment, it's going to be a different word, but there's an aliveness to it. And this is this mystery. If we're coming from the Christ-based tradition, we're calling this a part of the Holy Spirit, that I'm receiving this power that comes into my nervous system and begins to move my nervous system and move it towards wholeness and healing. And this is us learning how to partner with that mystery that on the outside is seemingly invisible, but as soon as the body receives it, it's like plugging back into your divine source, because your nervous system immediately starts responding to it. So as you're letting it grow and as you're watching it and as you draw it and you keep letting it come, it is moving your nervous system and your brain into more homeostasis, into more balance, clarity. It's God's gift to you, or the divine's gift to you, however you language that. And so this is a really important thing, that for this practice, and the way that I intuited this from Jesus, he's saying that I don't want you guys going into relationship with anything that's difficult in your life without being held by this support, without being full of this support, because this support keeps you safe. It keeps you cared for. It cares for your nervous system, and it allows you to be resilient in the face of whatever it is that you're challenged with. So this is how we start our practice. And the cool thing is like you can just keep extending out, feeling this support, and that will keep resourcing your body. You'll come to a place though that all of a sudden your challenge shows up, or the hard thing shows up, because then what happens is as my nervous system is opening and being supported and opening and getting grounded, getting clear, then what wants to come into that support is some part of me that has been struggling. That's where my nervous system wants to then go and integrate that. So then we come to what challenge is alive for you today. By a challenge, on this one I have how do I receive and keep God first? This was what I had written on this for that day. I'm struggling with how do I receive and keep God first? That was my challenge that day. Today, my challenge would be, I've been invited to produce a lot of content today, and it seems overwhelming. And even though I'm eating what I already had prepared, my blood sugar is dropping. So I needed to order more stuff to eat. And I think it's too much. It's too much to push myself. So that's my challenge that is coming in for me. Notice what challenge comes in for you. Take a moment and think about what comes up. I'm going to mute myself so you don't hear me eating. So what challenge comes up for you?
Yeah, for me, it kind of, after that last time we talked, I found myself taking that breath, a deep breath, and then it just was kind of coming to me as, I guess, willingness to connect with God and the divine. Like there's some wounds there, and so like that willingness to go through with that.
Yeah, right. So one of the things that's so good about that is, like, from my experience with this, like God, however you want to language God wants you to be in that conversation, in that, I don't trust you. I don't want to do this. Like the first 2 years of this practices was me screaming about that. Like, I did not choose this. I don't want to do this. I don't trust you. I don't want this. This is not what, I didn't sign up for this. I don't trust this because of this, this, and that. And it's like, we get to bring each of those limitations, and you might be with that limitation for a month. It's totally fine. And we want to be honest about that. And so we want to be able to say, my challenge is I'm not yet willing to connect with God. And the remarkable thing is, what you're talking about is like the relational connection with God. And it's okay, because even in that, you're still receiving the divine gift of the strong foundation. We don't have to relationally be on board and have the right semantic and have the right practice to be receiving through our nervous system the support and love and power that the divine is giving to me and is giving to my chickens outside and is giving to my plant in the front yard and is giving to the grass. That aliveness and that support is outpouring to everything, regardless of how our brain is able to relate to that. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah. So like, that's why, I mean, it's so amazing, because like, that's why we start with receiving that support first, because that love is given to us no matter what. That support, that aliveness is given to us no matter what. And we can either rest into it and receive that physically or not. And then how my brain and my relational part of myself works through that, that's a process. But it does not keep you from letting your nervous system already get to have that strong foundation and clarity and kindness and rest. Do you see? Like, you get that no matter what your other stuff needs to go through. It will not block that. And so it's okay for us to have challenge in our relationship. Even for me, I have, how do I receive and keep God first? Because I keep putting God last. Even myself in this journal, a recent journal, we're going to be struggling with this the whole time. It's fine. So when you feel that, notice where you feel that resistance or that lack of willingness. See if you can feel, where do you feel that in your mind or in your body? Where do you feel yourself begin to contract? Take a moment and see if you.
I definitely felt that in my abdomen.
And then you're going to draw that. You're going to draw that on your abdomen. What does it feel like? How big of a resistance? Or maybe it's not resistance. Maybe it's something else. If you really sit with it and let it do what it's doing, you draw it in there, and so that your brain can see, this is where my not willing to lives. Look at this, guys. My little chicken. She's trying to come in. She can't figure out if she wants to or not. She's so cute. Just a little break. So when you draw it in there and you're giving yourself full permission to have resistance, to not be willing. Notice what that feels like when it's allowed to be there and you're able to just let it be there slowly and held by your strong foundation.
It's interesting because I had it where I was like, this is where I'm feeling that. But then I just realized, like, there was an initial one that was like automatic, and then I guess like the emotional component came in, and that's what I was feeling in the stomach, and not the actual, like, the first thing. So it's different.
The first, the lack of willingness, like mental, right? And then you had something in the stomach that came alive.
Yeah, I thought that lack of willingness was in my stomach, but it was actually my reaction to my unwillingness was in my stomach.
Okay. So
but it was more of like my arms.
Okay. Right, right. So see what's happening is as you're sitting with this, like notice how your unwillingness is your behavior. That's the impulse to behave. Is I'm unwilling. Your emotion and your sensations are in your stomach and in your arms. You want to write down, what does it feel like? Or do you feel like your unwillingness is also an emotion, but it's also a behavior? You have a sensation. What does the sensation feel like?
I guess like the unwillingness sensation, like I guess it makes me want to have the behavior of like crossing my arms because that's what that feels like, and I can feel like I'm more aware of like my biceps during that, like that's where it feels like. But then like when I had, I guess, my thoughts about that unwillingness, then I started feeling like the guilt in my stomach, and that's where that came in. So like
Okay, right. So you have thoughts about unwillingness. Maybe there's something that you would want to say, like, I don't want to, or I don't trust this, or I'm not ready. Whatever the thing is that you want to say, you want to put that in there. And you said you have guilt in your stomach. You see how it's like all experience, if we slow it down enough, is like a Polaroid developing. It like comes into full focus. So the more supported that I am, you're being given this strong foundation to feel what is true for you. This is what is true for you. And if we're going to be in authentic relationship with the divine, we have to be able to bring what is true for us. And what you're feeling is what everybody has to go through as they're going on this journey. I did the same thing, and I returned through this same thing every time I'm invited to do something a little bit more intense on this journey. And also the other two in this practice here that's been here, notice how familiar this is, what she's navigating. How did you guys navigate something similar about being unwilling last week, probably? Like, you know what I'm saying? How does this show up for you guys too?
Yeah, I was gonna say it was recent. Just that feeling of I don't want to, and it almost feels like I'm cemented to the ground, like I can't move in any direction.
For me, it's more of like a feisty quality, feeling like I'm already giving so much, now something else. When does it ever end?
So you see, new participant, when you're doing this, like notice how this feels to be able to recognize that this is a part of this and this is supposed to be a part of this. How you're feeling is exactly right on track with how this goes.
I mean, that definitely like brings my nervous system down hearing that. Like that's helpful to hear.
Notice what happens to your experience of it. Notice what happens to, how does your breathing respond? Like notice how your breathing responded when you were felt your arms crossed, or the impulse to have your arms crossed, right? And notice how it's beginning to change the breathing and just allowing the experience to be there.
still not able to notice like my breathing changing yet.
Notice about in the past, when you have experienced a challenge like this, when you've experienced yourself being unwilling, how did that play out? Where did that lead you? Or what happened for you when you were unwilling in regard to something? Or it might be, see which one of these resonates with you, because it could be one or the other. In the past, when somebody was expecting something of you, you felt like somebody was expecting something out of you that you should be doing, but you weren't willing. Does that sound like it resonates more with what the experience it is? Like there's this expectation or a perceived expectation.
Yeah, I guess that can kind of go with that I feel I should be doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm able to, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's something I, for myself, am trying to do, or if it's somebody else's expectation.
Right. So what you want to be able to do, what we're doing in this question is like we're trying to see how does the challenge that I'm feeling today, how is that like a familiar challenge where I've been before? And how did that play out in the past? So for me, if my challenge was how do I receive and keep God first when I keep putting other things first, my past thing was I've gone through the motions, but my full heart was not yet pointed to God. So like I try to put him first. I'm doing these steps, but I can feel that it's not authentic to me yet in some ways at this level of what I was doing, what I was facing into.
I guess I was thinking about that my unwillingness to connect keeps me disconnected.
Yeah. I'm still there in that disconnection. So it's helpful to
forward.
Yeah, exactly. So what happens is with this question, we get to kind of see like our brain is moving so quickly so often, and we're making a reaction decision just off of the first feeling, off of the first impulse. But when we really embody the experience and we break it down, then the brain really gets to see where that keeps leading me, where that reactionary choice keeps placing me. And so then when I see that, it's like usually sometimes it's pretty surprising to me to see that outcome, like, oh, well, I'm still disconnected. I'm still not authentically able to move here because I'm still kind of keeping things at bay. It helps the brain to see that. So you can fill that in there. It leaves me, it keeps leaving me disconnected. I have to mention, guys, that when you're doing this work, you have to eat. And I think this is funny. I don't think I've ever eaten on class like this, and the whole time I've done this before. So I think this is very strange that I was about to pass out and needed to eat. But I think we've just done a bunch of practices today, so it makes sense. When you're doing this work, you're changing how your nervous system is moving. So you're building a new neural net. Your body's wiring itself in a different way. So you need to eat to do that. So if you're doing this practice and you're feeling like I'm really exhausted or I need to eat something, go ahead and eat whatever you're craving, because your body will burn it up extremely fast when you're doing this work. And I think the other participants can attest to that as well. So then we come into this question, the present challenge makes me think my future is going to be. You want to be thinking about this like, it's like your fear in the beginning. A lot of times it's like my fear. Like if I connect with this God in this way, I'm never going to be able to choose what I want to do again for the rest of my life or something like that. You know, like what is your fear about moving into that connection? What comes up for you?
It was a little tricky to answer with
What comes up?
nothing. But is asking like, if I did do the challenge that I'm facing today, how do I think that'll impact my future?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to create lots of change.
Yeah. Right. And so you can see why it makes sense that you are resistant or unwilling, right?
And it makes you face certain things too,
Yeah.
when you connect with God. Like,
yeah. So it's like it opens up for a lot of change and it makes me deal with things. This is all extremely helpful. So this is the full embodiment of unwillingness. Notice the difference between being able to see that versus just saying, well, I'm just unwilling. Even just the exercise of that, and then receiving the support, your strong foundation. How does that feel?
more resourced in my body, I guess.
Yeah.
It
And the thing
doesn't
that
feel as big.
it doesn't feel as big. And the thing that's amazing is you have fully taken it in. You would think that if I fully take in the weight of this, it's going to destabilize me. If I really fully let myself feel what is challenging me and what I've been avoiding or whatever the thing is, I'm talking about all the different challenges that we face on a daily basis, it's going to be too much. And yet, when we are working with the nervous system and when we slow it down and really allow the full emotional sensory core to take it in, it's smaller than it had seemed originally.
I really felt that when you said that about taking all in, worrying about it being too much.
Yeah.
Yeah, that felt like hitting the nail on the head.
Yeah.
That it would be like dysregulating.
Yeah. Yeah. And that is, it feels like that every single day. You can do this forever. And you will still literally, seriously in your brain think it's too much. We go through this every single day. And yet at the end of the practice, there's a whole other thing that happens. And you experience it. I'm not going to say because you're going to go through that today, but it changes it. And not in a Pollyanna, I'm trying to do some cognitive, positivity to it, but like my literal physiology changes. And then it makes me more able to be with all of the places in my life that I'm unwilling and be able to be tender with those and gather them in as well. So even if all that you want to start with is just the nervous system work, you can stop there. That would be, that's you arriving with the nervous system in a way that the nervous system feels supported. In step number 3, what we do is we're bringing the support, the strong foundation, into the mind, your speech, your impulse to behave, your emotion and sensation, your breathing, your past, and your present. So we're spending at least 1 minute letting each of these areas that have been feeling unwilling just receive support. And then it takes the nervous system even further. But even if in the beginning of this work, and this is for you who's with me here live, and for those of you who are watching this in the replay, depending on where you guys have, what you guys have walked through in your life, that challenge to connect with the divine can be very, very dysregulated. It can be a very, very rough road that you've gone through. I have clients who have, you know, were raised in religious cults and had a lot of trauma from that. So they take this very slowly and don't go too deeply on this other. We can stay and keep this second half of this very neutral, which I think we're going to do today. And for those of you that are like, no, I want to go deep and go in, there's 1,400 videos on YouTube that I've done that you can go deeply, because I take you there deeply anytime you want. But I think for this practice, for the first one out, I think it's very helpful to watch what can happen even just in the nervous system receiving the support that it was given at the beginning. So let's watch how that works. What you're going to do is you're going to hold your head and you're reading that quality of strong foundation. You're refreshing your awareness of that strong foundation. And most likely that feels different now, even more than when we started. How does that, the way that your feet were being held, how does that feel now compared to when we started?
I mean, I've moved my feet around since then, so they're not supported in the same way. They're still supported, but I notice sensations like further up in the body now.
Oh yeah, it's more, right? Think about your tone of touch, like with your hands, and whatever that experience feels like, that strong foundation, I want my hands to be able to express that in the way that they are holding my head. So I'm just holding my head and I'm reading how my mind sees it. So your mind was saying what about unwillingness?
Can you repeat the question?
What was your mind saying about being unwilling? What was your mind saying about that when we first started? That's the first line there.
I'm not sure I quite grasp it. What my mind sees and thinks.
Yeah, I don't want to connect with God. I think you said, I don't want to connect for some historical reasons and just I think there was something else you had said, but I didn't write it down. But you had a reason why. There was a reason why. It's how your mind sees that. There's a reason why you are unwilling to necessarily jump into this full connection.
So that's what is my mind seeing is the reason why.
Mm-hmm. And you don't have to like articulate like a whole story, but it's like there's a short synopsis. I'm sure that there's a reason why that goes in. And I think we kind of skipped over that, but that goes in how my mind sees and thinks about today's challenge. What do I see myself doing, and what is my mind saying about that?
I guess like I don't like to have that unwillingness to connect, so I'm not sure. How to answer that.
Well,
like I wish I didn't have that challenge.
okay.
Like my mind doesn't quite grab that question.
Right. You can write that down. I wish I didn't have that challenge. But also, at some point, we do want to hear from the self that does have that challenge, because you have it for a reason. Like, you're not just making it up to be difficult. You have that challenge because you have gone through something, and your brain remembers that. And so you can say, well, I wish I didn't have that today. And then we're just holding that. I wish I didn't have it, but also there's probably a good reason. I would put on there and say, but there's also probably a good reason. I wish I didn't have it, but there's probably a good reason, or it makes sense that I do, but I wish I didn't have that right now. And so then what we're doing, how about, did you also fill in, how do we speak about it? How do you talk about it? Or did we skip over that too?
I think we skipped over that. I'm not sure what's happening there.
That one can actually be, I wish I didn't have it, because that's actually what you're saying too. I know this sounds kind of, I know we're getting a little jumbled up here, but it's okay. Just write, I wish I didn't have it. And then your impulse to behave was crossing your arms, like a sense of wanting to cross your arms. And then your emotion and your sensations was a sensation of guilt in your stomach. And the breathing didn't really present anything to you. And then you did your past and your present challenge makes you think you feel like, right?
I think so, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So all of those now are the embodied experience. And then what we're doing then is we're allowing that to be what it is. We're not trying to change it. We're offering this support to it. So this experience of a strong foundation, I can put my elbows on a table, or I can put, if I have like a chair that I'm sitting on, I can kind of hold my head. And I'm saying, this is how my brain is not yet ready. I see myself just not yet ready. And I'm just letting that myself be there, right where I am, and being held in this strong foundation. And we just allow it to be there. And we're holding that for about a minute. And just notice how it feels to just allow your brain to do what it's doing and to be held in that. And you're giving your brain a moment to just rest into the presence of the support from your hands. Just notice what that feels like, what begins to unfold. There'll be some type of gentle response that happens in the body, or some type of impression I get in my brain where there's a subtle reorganization of how my brain was feeling at first. See if you can sense that.
I'm having a hard time staying with it.
It's okay. In the beginning, just the experience of my brain being able to be held when I'm feeling unwilling about something, that there's that much support to just be right where I am. When you just take a moment and experience that, what is that like for your brain to be able to be held in that way, even though you're unwilling right now? Think about, have you ever been unwilling before and had this much care for yourself when you've been unwilling?
Oh, never.
Right. And like that's God's heart. You know what I'm saying? Like that's probably one of the most primary messages of this, is that we're going to slow down and let the nervous system be tended to with a radical divinity, even when we're resisting. It's fine. That resistance does not keep us from receiving the peace that God is intending for us. And it's this really amazing, sneaky love that's pouring out to us. And all we get to do is just arrive with it and allow ourselves to be resistant when we're resistant, allow ourselves to receive it when we can receive it. And that's it. There's no answer for you to come to in each of these. In the beginning, it might just be that you're taking that minute to allow that area to be comforted as it's in a state of unwillingness, because it gives you permission to be right where you are and to be cared for in whatever state you're in. Notice what happens. How's your body responding as you're just coming into these experiences?
I think that like trying to put things into words to write down and tuning into what I'm feeling in my body at the same time is presenting a challenge.
Yeah, it's a strength training. So in the beginning, it's like, I don't know, this is a new language. I'm not sure I have the right language of it. Over time, when you're practicing this, this will flow a little bit, but it takes a long time. It takes a couple months to like get the nervous system used to articulating, because you're working from a different part of your brain. There's a part of your brain that is feeling, and a part of your body that is feeling the support. And in the brain, this is completely not familiar to the brain. And so the brain's like, what? So let's do this, because this is a great first practice. Take a moment, and you're just going to then hold your jaw, because I also know you have somebody coming to do some work here in a few minutes, and I want to help you to be able to feel some care and that you completed it. You're just holding your jaw with that same sense of foundation. And we're just going to take 3 breaths. And we're just going to say, I'm supported to be right where I am. I'm supported to be right where I am today. And let your jaw just be held by your own hands. And then place your hands on your collarbones. This is where your impulse to behave, all your behavior initiates in the collarbones. I'm either moving towards something or away from something or turning away or collapsing. So I'm holding my collarbones and I'm saying, I'm allowed to be right where I am today and still be supported. And you're just holding that and you're breathing to where your hands are. And you're exhaling. And then you're holding the emotions and the sensations. So you're holding your chest and then also your upper abdomen or wherever the emotions or sensations are. And you're saying, I'm allowed to feel exactly what I'm feeling today and still be supported. And then for your breathing, you kind of change, and your arms along your sides are kind of like a hug to the side of your rib cage, and your hands are on your lungs. And we're saying, I'm allowed to be here today and be supported. And then we're holding the upper abdomen and we're thinking about our past, and you're just thinking about all those past times that you have gone through experiences of being unwilling, that the ones that stand out the most get to come here today and just be held in this support. They just get to be held in this support because connection was unfamiliar and they just weren't ready. And then for your lower abdomen, we're just holding that and we're just offering that anytime I feel unwilling in the future, I'm allowed to be supported in that so that it can be cared for. And then when we get to the end there, to part 4, when unwillingness is allowed to be supported in this way through the nervous system, how does that change your experience of unwillingness?
The unwillingness is not as big.
Not as big.
Permission to be unwilling. I'm not sure how to find the words for it.
Okay.
I'm a little stuck.
So the permission to just be unwilling, does that make you feel more anxious or less anxious?
Less. I know sometimes if I just say out loud the thing that I don't want to do, it makes it easier to do.
Yeah, exactly. And this is like we're just beginning to start to support our nervous system in where we're coming from. Because when we can just even begin to be held exactly as we are, because it makes sense. The more we slow it down, the more you're going to see why it makes sense that you're unwilling. And then as we go through that and you spend some time with that, then there's an opportunity for the next step to happen. But this is the difference between a real embodied relationship with something versus a cognitive behavioral shift. We all have tried all these cognitive behavioral shifts. Let me just make myself do this and make myself do that. And then there's still this unmet anxiousness in our system or unmet dis-ease in our system. And it just doesn't resonate. Where when we allow ourselves to just arrive with what is true, receiving the support the divine is giving us, no matter what, that's not being cut off from you. That's being given to you, period. And in 10 minutes from now, when you move positions, it's going to be given to you again in a different way. And that aliveness changes your nervous system, and it changes and heals your experiences, and it brings you closer in a very gentle, subtle way as you are ready, as you are able to be moving with it. But it moves at your pace. And so I think this was a perfect practice to just begin to see, and you can see how, yeah, there's not that real succinct brain body languaging connection, because that's a certain quality of strength training that will come the more that your nervous system is able to rest and heal and be able to express what you are actually feeling without having some consequences for that. So the takeaway is, when I give myself permission to be exactly where I am and be supported in that, the intensity of my life becomes smaller. Does that feel true?
I think so. It's a new thing, so it's started.
Yeah.
But I think we're saying, like, we have the support and the gifts, and it's always there. I think what I had been taught was, like, if we're not open and willing to receive that support, or if we're turning our back on that support, it's not going to reach us.
Well, it doesn't reach us because we're resisting it. It's like the sunshine. Either I'm going to go out and stand in the sunshine and receive it, or I'm going to be hiding under my bed. It's like that. I mean, it's pouring out to everybody all the time. It never turns away from us. We are the ones that turn away from it because we've been miseducated on what it actually means to be receiving that support in that relationship.
Right.
Yeah. So it never is turning away from you. It's outpouring to you through every single aspect of your life, through your food, your space, your pets, your animals. Like, it's coming from everywhere all the time. Whatever you slow down to really see what the thing is you're in contact with to receive it, you feel it. It's why in the evening practices, which you've done a lot of evening practices with me, when even a circumstance also has that aliveness, a song has that aliveness coming through it, a word in scripture has that aliveness coming through it. It's coming from everywhere. What we're learning how to do is to actually begin to see it and feel it and notice how your system immediately responds to it. And that's it. That's your body resonating with this divine mystery in a way that we were created to. And then we have our brain that gets in there and creates a whole bunch of separation out of an illusion of protection. But we all go through that, And so it's like being able to come to this practices and be exactly where you're at. I'm so thankful that you asked to do this today, because this is where we all start. I started here, right in the same place where you are, with hesitancy and not sureness, but a sense of wanting to, but then also just like no frame of reference of what that even means, and a lot of misperceptions. So, but the thing that is true, and the thing that connects all of it, is that our nervous system responds to it immediately. And the parasympathetic system changes very quickly when you plug into what the divine has waiting for you. So you can see that's why your mind started to calm and your breathing settled and your muscles were letting go, and you could feel the strong foundation coming through your whole system, because your nervous system is made and created to receive this support. You're not made to be walking without this support. And so we can call it whatever we want. It doesn't even matter to an extent, because your body will still receive it. It's still outpouring to you. It never turns away from you. ever. And I think it's the genius of how, you know, when Jesus invited me to write the workbooks and do this stuff, I did the Christ-based one first. And then I went to the school and taught a class. And then half of the class were like, my ears are burning with acid if you keep saying Jesus. And so then Jesus was like, I want you to make the spiritual neutral one. And so I made that one. And like, I'm coming from after a decade of walking deeply. So I just want that for everybody to feel this quality of love that we just peeked into today. And you can see is like massively intimate and huge and kind and gentle and generous and restful. And I want that for everybody, but we can't just all go there. We have to like go through the relational development process. So he said, you got to put the spiritual neutral one together so that people can sit with it and not have to hear that, but begin to feel the power of this Holy Spirit or divine conscious and feel how it loves them no matter what. And they can call it whatever they need to call it as they're walking their own journey. And I could feel myself, even over the past couple months, still judging it. And he would call me on the floor and say, if you are judging that, you are 2 steps away from murder. You're 2 steps away from how what religion has done, saying that it only can be this way. He's saying, I am a big God, and I'm going to show up for everybody exactly where they are. And you have to hold space for that in the practices, to let people feel me exactly where they are. And that Holy Spirit connection is the beginning journey, because your nervous system responds to it. And our nervous system, we can count on that because it is a system that is always going to move every time that we feel this support. And so to me, it's such an amazing, it's even a bigger love than I could ever even imagine, because I can barely even hold it, because I get wrapped up in my processes and I say, it has to be this way. And Jesus is like elbowing me, no, it's going to be this way. And even today, I have to say I'm cracking up, because he gave me this list of things I needed to record. And this class was one of those things. And I would not have been able to do it well if you hadn't asked to do it, because this actually gives an example of what it's like when people are starting. And in my first line, when I was here starving and I'm eating and I'm like about ready to pass out, and I was trying to schedule to go see a movie with my friend today and get out of recording. And then you asked to do this. And so then he said, I got you, you little sweet thing. You were trying to block doing this, but I made sure that you're here and you didn't sidestep around it. And that's why we're doing this class, so that this can be done, because this needs to be done just like this. And so you can't make this up in how fantastic this is and how it's perfect for each of us right where we are. And there's no pressure. Everybody's going to start with a grappling with that willingness, everybody. And every time your journey takes you to the next step, you're going to re-grapple with it. And then the next step, you're still going to be wrestling with it, because the Christ walk, or walking with the divine, is walking into an unknown. And so it's a beautiful thing. What's your takeaway? What do you think? How does it sit with you, this rise and shine practice?
I've got a lot of work to do, but also not to like beat myself up for not having it all done all the time. And it's, nothing has to be perfect. It's not going to be perfect.
No, it's not going to be perfect. And also you don't have to do it alone, because we're right here with you.
Just got to be willing to try.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, to try and do it. And look, even today, even doing this with you, I still didn't go all the way through. So that can be for another day, right? It's not about like getting the thing done right. It's about doing what was right for today. This was what was right for today. And every day it's going to be like that. We're going to have a little bit, and you're not alone. We practice all the time. We're here with you. There's replays, but we're here with you. And you don't ever have to do it alone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to do, let's space out the rest of the practices. Let's do, just so that we can take it in. I'm going to do tomorrow morning at 5:30, or actually, you know what? I don't have to pick up my son tomorrow, or I don't take him to school tomorrow. So at 7, I'm going to do the Christ Alive in Music, or the Source, the Spiritual Neutral, or the Christ-based one. I'm going to do both at 7 o'clock. I'm going to send you a link to that. And those who want to do it, I'll send you a link. You can do it with me. We'll do the music, the scripture, or the article, or whatever you want to read for text, and then the movement into rest. So you can experience those 3. And then you'll have all your steps for your journal. And you'll have a way of starting that. So I'll send you a link to that. Or you can text me if that time doesn't work for you, and we'll figure out another one if it doesn't.
7 is the time I try to wake up every day. So
okay, maybe we'll make it 8 or 9. We can make it a little later. Baby steps and appropriate steps, guys. Okay, so would 8 o'clock work?
I think the 7 might be better for me, but I could make it work at 8.
Okay.
Just 8 is usually the time I start work.
Okay, why don't we do 7? It's only going to be like 30 minutes. So 7 to 7:30. Okay. Okay. Thank you for being here. And then we'll have those also in this introduction page, so people have that to come to when they come in. And I just really appreciate you holding that space with me to help create that. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Have a great afternoon. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll send you a link here shortly. Bye.
Great. See you tomorrow.
See you.